Hey guys, welcome back to building a basic website from scratch. In the last video, we talked a little bit about the index page. We created an index page, laid out the content, made it mobile responsive, created a few components as well, and made some edits to our initial styles. In this video, we're actually going to move on to our About Us page and start creating more kind of like a resume profile and section where future employers may be able to come back and see what we are able to do, what we've done in the past, and be able to kind of demonstrate our skills and what we have. So let's go ahead and start building that page. What I am going to do is I am going to go to the files and I am going to duplicate our index page. I'm going to rename it about.html. That's because we have an home here and we have an about page. Now an about page, you see that we created it. If we click on projects because we haven't created that page, it's going to give us an error that this file is not found. So again, we're here now on about. Let's go ahead and do the following. Let's go ahead and open up that about HTML. And just like what we did on the .com site, let's go ahead on the index.html site. Let's go ahead and zero everything out. The only difference is that I am still going to keep this kind of intro. I'm going to have my picture in there. Ideally, I will have another picture that I can use and maybe have, different pictures of me in that area. Well, quote unquote me, of course. So here we go. I'm still going to keep these here. Let's go ahead and not make the same mistake that we made last time. So let's go ahead and here say something about John Smith's portfolio. We can make something like this so that when people come to the site, they know that they're on the About Us page. And then we have John Smith portfolio we have here. So it will be so learn more. And then down here, I'm going to say something along the lines of learn more about John Smith. And then, of course, we still have this little intro. If we go to the site, you can see now I changed that to learn more about John Smith. If you go to the home page, it says, welcome to John Smith's portfolio. The About Us is going to say, learn more about John Smith, right? And again, this is our heading 1. It's the most important heading. We want to make sure that all of our pages have at least a heading 1. Then you have heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. Here, you might not need more as much content. Let's go ahead and wrap this up as well. So again, maybe this will be a smaller intro, more about, talking a little bit more about his CV, right? His resume, right? So we don't need probably as much content as what we had on the home page. The second part that we want to talk about will be more about maybe John Smith's experience. And so let's go ahead and build that out. We have our container, which is fine. Let's go ahead and create a new container for this area. Class container. And then div class row, of course. And then here, what we're going to do, let's go ahead and make it full width. Div class call extra small 12. And you'll see what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to create a component called, let's go ahead and say div class, right? CV or curriculum vitae or your resume, CV header, all right? And then in CV header, we're going to have an H2, an H3. And then here, what we're going to have in the H3 is the name of the company. So like, for example, let's say Acme, right? That's the name of the company. And then we're going to have a small character over here. And then here we're going to say something like, for example, August 2012 to current. Okay, That's what we're going to have in here. So that's going to be our CV header. And then of course, because we need to say, what's happening in this area, let's go ahead and add a heading 2 and say something like, for example, experience here. We go to the site, we refresh. Whenever it decides to refresh, let's make sure it's saved. All right, here you go. So we have experience, and then we have the name of the company. So what we're going to do with this CV area is we're going to move it to the right over here. So let's go ahead and add this CV header. Let's go to our style.css. And let's go ahead and create CV component. End of CV component. And here we're going to call it CV header. And of course, because we're using Flexbox to build this site, display flex, flex flow, row wrap, align items, baseline, align content, baseline, and then flex start, justify content, flex start. Okay. And then what we're going to do is CV header. We're not going to add any other styles because I think that will be more than enough. If we were to refresh this, then this will actually move up here, but we actually need it to be split up. So let's go ahead and instead of using justify content, we're going to do something like space evenly, or space between, sorry, because it's only 2 areas here, space between. There you go. And then now you see that it got moved all the way to the right. So then now we have this experience. We have the name of the company. And now we need to actually make a list of kind of what we did, maybe the role that we were in that position, and then kind of go from there. So in order to do that, we are going to use something that we created before. If we go up to the list in our template section, you can see that we have this unstyled, where the first one that doesn't show an order, right? Like doesn't show the bullets, and the rest kind of follows through. So that's what we're going to do. So let's take a look in here. Let's go in here. We're going to add this class. This unordered list. All right. Perfect. So the first one, let's go ahead and we had an H3 for the name of the company. So that means we're going to use an H4 for the name of the role. So let's go ahead and call it role 1. And in that role 1, we have to have some different information, like what was our role, what we actually did in that company. So let's go ahead and do that. Here we go. We're going to create another list. And in order to not make it look so monotonous, let's go ahead and we're just going to copy a few of these here, right? LI. We're going to do maybe like 4, there you go, 5. Okay. Here we go. We're just going to copy these. Now, again, if you're building this for your project, hopefully you have some experience, some work that you've done. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and copy your resume and put it in there. Make it easily accessible. If there's any keywords that you would like to maybe highlight, then you can say, for example, like say this one, for example, was UI, UX, or something like that. Maybe you want to make it strong, right? So that it actually highlights that specific keyword based on what you're the role that you're trying to accomplish. So if you look at the site, now you have role 1, and then you have each one of these roles in here. You see that? And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have a role 2, role 3. Maybe you moved up in that company, of course. Role 1 will be the one below. Role 2 will be the one above it, right? Because you've been going up and up and up in the company. Or you move laterally as well in the company. So then you can see that. So you have different roles here. And then you have role 3. So again, this looks very, very similar to what a resume looks like. Again, making it really easy for somebody if they want to know what kind of company you worked on, what your experience is, to kind of display that. And again, if you have more than just one place that you've worked at, right, you'll have more of these kind of sections in your site, right? So you might have, maybe you didn't work at Acme, you worked at Rocket Factory. All right, so you have that, and maybe you've only been there in one role. That was a temporary role that you were in. Maybe that was an internship. I don't know. So again, you have Rocket Factory, the year that it was taken on, and then you have kind of the role that you worked on. So again, you have that for your experience. Now, the beautiful thing that now we have this information in is that, for example, now you can use the same format that we have here for other areas of your CV, right? So we can go here and go, so for example, to the H2, and we're going to copy all the way to the UL. And then once we get to the bottom of the UL, let's go ahead and give a couple returns in there. And now it's no longer experience, but now here it will be education, right? And then, for example, you can say something like University of Texas, Arlington, right? And you can say, right, where the university is at, so like Arlington, Texas, right? And then here you have maybe the name of your graduate program, right? Like, for example, communication technology. And here you can describe some of the things that you've done, like, I don't know, like, for example, what you learn. You can say maybe a minor in business administration, right? Or maybe you can say, okay, so I excelled in what I was doing. Here, maybe my GPA was a 3.5, so I was cum laude. 4.0 scale, something like that, right? Like you kind of, maybe you learn about A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, for example, you can say something here like strong, what I learned, right? And then here you can have another on order list, right? If you remember nested lists, we did that when we were doing typography. So now here you can just, again, this is your experience. This is what is going to make other people know what you're able to do here. Education, communication technology, right? Like you have all the information that people can read on that, right? Maybe you have that. Maybe you have a bachelor's, right, in that. Or, for example, maybe you continued your education here, right? So now instead of just a bachelor's, now you have a master's degree. Then you can go in and add it here as well, right? Like your master's, right? You can say something along the lines of master's in information systems. All right. So then we can also here go in and make some updates as well here, and add more content on the site as well. Right, so like we have all this information. Say, hey, you have a master's in information systems. Maybe your GPA still continues to be at 3.5, and then again, maybe what I learned or something like that. Again, you have all this information that you're kind of demonstrating. If you still got it from, say, the University of Texas at Arlington, if you got maybe an associate somewhere else, then you can also add that there. But now, for example, again, you have your experience. You have now your education. You can have also maybe skills that you can show on your site. So maybe we can go ahead and break this down and go ahead and add this again for as far as experience goes. So for example, here you can say something along the lines of skills. All right, so let's go all the way to the bottom. And here we can say something along the lines of skills. All right. And then when you go into skills, then we can add the same component that we had before. So if you look at the stars, we can use them here. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and add the stars here, for example. So knowledge, we're calling it knowledge. And here we're just going to paste this over. Let's see real quick. Let's find one that has more of the stars. All right, so here now we can go in here and say skills. We can add multiple skills, right? And if we refresh, again, we have all of our skills here. We have HTML. We can change it to add CSS. You can add whichever skills that you have, like Photoshop, Illustrator. And again, that just depends on your level of skill. We could pre-fill this in. If you want to, you can even break them down into smaller chunks. So for example, you can make it into, maybe what's technology, maybe software, maybe you're bilingual, you're Spanish and English speaker, so then you can say what your level of proficiency on both languages are. If you have experience on different libraries, you can break that down even more. But just to show you, just as simple, now that we have several things that we've built in the past, we can easily create a system or create our pages, just because it's a lot easier to kind of do it as we're building it here. Now, one thing that we could probably do to clean this up a little bit better and create a little more experience is to actually break it down into sections. So for example, we are into the about, right? And we have experience here. So, and then we have our on style list. For our experience, we have now the other company that we worked at. So here, we could potentially just go ahead and start a new row, div class row, and then div class call extra small 12. And of course, we don't need those, right? And then again, we have an H2 and an order list. And again, here we're gonna break it down again. So let's go ahead and close this and close that and go ahead and open the same theme. So here we have div class row, div class call extra small 12, and then here, there you go. And if we save that and refresh, now we have a little bit more, have a little more separation from one page, one section to the next. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to inspect the elements. And then here you see we have that row. This will be another row. And then if we go to the top one here, right there, we're going to have another row. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and add some spacing in our rows as well. So we're going to do a margin bottom of 1.618 rem between rows. So that would help kind of create a little bit of separation between one section and the next. So again, if we had a wireframe, it's a lot easier to kind of see these separations and prepare for them. In this case, because we are making these changes on the fly and kind of using the system that we created, then that's why, some of these changes are happening, and they might have to be switched over later on. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's go ahead and find our grid system again. And then we're going to make those changes. So here we go. The container fluid, all right, margin bottom 1.618 rem. And in the row, we're going to do the same thing, margin bottom 1.618 rem, and that will create a little more separation. If we refresh this page, then you can see the separation that's being created in here. But then we also have to go back to the home page, and you can see that there's more separation that was created in here. That would help kind of separate and kind of create a little more space and help breathing. So what we're doing right now by creating a little more separation between content is we're creating something that is called white space. White space allows for more breathing space for the content to kind of hold its own area, and it also helps with allowing for better legibility. more readability as well. So all these things kind of combined together help create a more visually pleasing, more attractive website that users may be able to read and see a little bit better than if everything was kind of clutched up all in once. And also adding more space, more white space on the site also helps with being able to create a hierarchy in regards of the content. And if you can see this here, we're creating hierarchy not only for the how the content is laid out, but also we're creating a hierarchy based on what the headings we're using. For example, again, just because this is the biggest, it automatically kind of highlights that this is the most important thing. Again, second most important thing, you can see that the difference between these text and this text is significant, but you can also see that it's not just regular text that you see here. Also from here to here, which is our heading 2 to our heading 3, we have that separation of the content itself. And then when we go to our About Us page, then you can see that there as well. Take a look at this. When we're looking at our About Us page, we have our main content area, and then we have a breakdown of each one of the different areas that we have inside of our sites. So again, you look at this, we have our experience and why you should hire me. Here are some skills. We have education. Again, here's a good breakdown to kind of make your resume be put on the website. Now, let's take a look in here. We actually added some extra spacing. And if we look down here, here you go. So we have our row legal. And because we added this margin bottom 1.618 REM, we now need to also do the same and remove that margin bottom from our footer legal. So let's go ahead and find Control F, footer legal. Okay, so that's at the very bottom. And let's go ahead and do margin bottom 0. If we refresh, now that white space that we had at the bottom kind of goes away. And things are back to normal. All right. In the next video, what we're going to do, we're going to create these projects page, not the independent project pages, but the projects page. And then we'll continue building this site. On this video, we really kept it short, really went through the About Us and how I think will be a good idea to build this page. But again, I just wanted to show you guys how just using what we created, we can quickly create a page. Again, if I was doing this without talking, without explaining what I was doing, I could knock one of these pages in 5, at most 10 minutes. So think about everything that we've done up to now has prepared us to be able to be really fast and agile as we're creating new content. So until then, happy coding. I'll see you in the next video, and we're going to continue building our site and create our projects page. See you then. Bye.